Hello and welcome to the first Nordic virtual F1 podcast with actual people and not AI. Wow, what a surprise, right? Imagine having real people here, like it's a real league. Do you two want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, of course. I'm Infeat, uh, in the top of the Hall of Fame of the drivers in this league, and also one of the founders.
Hey guys, it's me, Joppe, um, also founder and old racer here.
The old racer, like you're that old.
Yeah,
Like we all aren't
yeah.
that old.
But who are you leading this show?
Uh, glad that you asked. I'm the usual guy that makes the videos. You may know me as Garweyn. I'm actually third in the Hall of Fame, unlike Infeat, who claims to be first, but is actually second in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I'm joking. So we've got a pretty interesting season, or like a first interesting stint for this season three so far. Drivers up front, very, very close. Behind, the battles are also really close. Could be changed by just a single track, basically. Someone having a really good performance. Any thoughts from you guys?
yeah, it's very, very stacked in the top of the leaderboard this season, and also in the mid tier. I feel like it's anyone's game this far. Um, I think this season is the season we could count on a real upset. To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at it, like, I mean, you got Magnus on ninth, 18 points. Below is Max Stone, 17 points. Koitron below in 11th with 16 points. Like, those two guys are 2 points apart. Like, any race could change that. I know that we've privately talked about Koitron, especially, who has, you know, insane race pace, if you just think about it. His quali positions as well. I think he was like third place or something in Baku, but just kind of injury prone, I would say. That would be the football term.
Yeah,
Yeah,
injury prone. That's a word, or just lack of experience. I don't know.
or unlucky. Who knows?
And maybe a combination of both. I mean, I remember myself in season one, back when it wasn't as competitive as it is now, and you had races, where I was very up in the front. I was like second place or something. Had an unlucky experience with someone behind me after a pit stop or something like that, and suddenly your race goes upside down. Suddenly you lose the confidence, and I think that's also something. You can call it unlucky, you can call it inexperienced. I think it's a mix of both because at some point, you gotta grow as a driver. You gotta, remember, okay, this isn't the end of my race, and you also gotta develop strategies, obviously, to prevent yourself from getting in those situations or to, avoid the crashes in those situations. I think that's simple.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of someone that has been growing, you.
Yeah, Garweyn, you has been a pro.
I mean, you've always been a very consistent driver, but throughout the past season, you started off a bit rough, and you kept developing your speed, your consistency of being fast, which kind of granted you podium positions every race in the end.
Yeah, I think after
Yeah.
it was like race two, I'm gonna bring the table up when I'm in editing. After race two, I didn't finish below having a double digit number of points, then I think that obviously plays a big part into, even if you're not always the fastest, obviously, except for Austin, where a lot of things went in my favor, I'm never really the fastest. But if you just have that consistency of, I'm getting at least 10 points every race, those are gonna stack up, obviously.
Yeah, and like for this season, you already have you have two podiums this far. I mean, a little bit of a shaky start, but otherwise,
Yeah, I mean, if you
you're doing good.
that's the crazy part. If you think about it, the Baku one especially, after the crash, I don't, not my crash, but after the crash that caused the second safety car, where I was leading the race, then got out of my rhythm, Rex overtook me, had a big lead. I think it was like 6/100 after his penalties that secured him the win. If you think about that, that's 7 points on top of my points. I would be second right now with a 1 point difference, it would be even closer.
Yeah, but but then, do you count yourself as a top fighting for the top spots in the end of the championship?
I mean, it's a double-edged sword in a way, right? Because on the one hand, I went into the season clearly as the number 2 driver behind Tbzalix. On the other hand, if you're that high up, you gotta try at least, right? Like, I don't think being 8 points behind the current leader, there's a point in me saying, oh no, I don't consider myself a candidate. I'd say from the top 5 that's currently in the fight, I would deem myself to be the outside candidate, the one that has to come over consistency and hope that, like, as this season progressed, we've witnessed a lot of drivers who were not used to crashing out. Like, you have Tom crashing in Baku and getting disqualified. We have Tbzalix crashing in Melbourne with the pit entrance, and we had, I think, Rex as well in, where was it? Melbourne as well,
Melbourne. Yeah, yeah.
crashing out and suddenly losing points. And while I don't think I have a lot of chances to consistently get like a race win, I think it's gonna be like a miracle if I get one or two. I think I just have to use these chances when they DNF and just take them and hope for the best.
Yeah, and speaking of drivers crashing out, Joppe,
Yeah.
what happened in Melbourne?
Ah, the tires was cold like usual, and I'm not supposed to play on a controller. First time, so I lost the control. I'm impressed of the drivers that uses a controller. That's insane.
Yeah, a
Don't
big,
know how they do it.
like, it's very beneficial to have a spare set of batteries next to you driving. We've experienced that with Rex, I feel like, a couple of times.
Yeah, I think there's some Italians who would like to contribute their thoughts, but it's very hard in Italian because as I previously stated once, it's actually in the Italian language, batteries and spaghettis, it's the same meaning. So when you order someone to get you batteries and you order them to get spaghettis, it can get mixed up, and then you're left without a controller with batteries, and that's unfortunate. But luckily for Joppe, he's not Italian.
Nobody eats spaghetti.
No. Yeah, I do.
So we were checking through the leaderboard, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we gotta talk about you and Feet. And it kind of ties
Oh,
into the Mercedes curse as well. I remember last season, season 2, you were kind of handled as the favorite. I mean, if you think about it, like, I don't think Tom, he finished maybe like one race last season and only one of them in the points as well. You had Joppe, who didn't have the greatest season, but not the worst. Tbzalix was fast, but couldn't attend that often, and you were like the unspoken favorite, let's say it that way. But you had a lot of unfortunate crashes, which was kind of the stigma around Mercedes, and why a lot of people probably wondered why we're going there. Like, I remember Capes as well when he was driving for Mercedes. I don't think he finished many races. He had a lot of incidents as well, and he's not a bad driver. And then you come in as a favorite, and somehow you even had a decent start, and somehow it just all seemed to slip away last season. And now suddenly we're 4 stints in. It's super competitive. It's even harder than last season. And suddenly you're leading the championship after 4 races.
Yeah, I got some theories behind this. Uh, in the very first season, we had two drivers driving for the Mercedes in the beginning. They didn't drive simultaneously because it started off with Capes driving in the Mercedes, and he crashed like 2 times in a row. And I literally think that the second time he took a dump or something in the car, because it's something with the car that's been following us throughout the seasons. I mean, Suppe, he didn't even manage to finish a race, or he finished one, I think, the very last on the first season.
Oh yeah, it was Fruxup and not Tom who
oh,
drove for.
yeah.
Yeah, and hey, we got into season 2, and I got a really good contract and thought, hey, this could be really cool. Driving with Garweyn, being the lead driver, maybe securing both constructors and the drivers' championship. But The moment I sat in the car, I realized that Zuppe and Kappas had been using this car before. You know when you get this really bad feeling, you sit down in the car and you feel that everything feels wrong. It smells bad. You're 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 just not mentally prepared to drive this car, you know.
Yeah, I think like what ties into this curse or bad feeling about the car as well as um I mean not in season one, but in season two and now in season three with Tbzalix, Mercedes somehow always manages to be that team where there's a lot of pressure on. Like obviously last season we two were projected to win the constructors, win the drivers championship for you. Um, this season, I come in or like I'm still here for Mercedes and Tbzalix comes in and the talk is, oh my god, okay, that's a super team. They're gonna dominate and win every race this season. And the first two races it went well. I had my usual hiccups with fucking up the first two races. Okay, after that I started picking it up. You know, Tbzalix has to miss one race. Then you get to Melbourne, Tbzalix goes onto the podium. I mean, gets onto the pole position. I had a decent position as well. I get out of the start very good as usual, up at the third place and all of that. You start to think, okay, everything's going well. We've got this in the back. We're back to our normal form. And suddenly it all goes to hell. And I think it could just be the pressure, because like on a logical level, there was no need for Tbzalix to crash out like he did in the race inside of the pit. Like there's no excuse and there's no need to it because it was so far in front. But I think it's a part of the pressure where you're like, we gotta make big points, we gotta get big plays, we gotta win everything. And I think it's just that pressure and the curse of every other Mercedes driver before me has failed, and I want to prove it differently. And I think that is what gets to people. You can blame it on the car, you can blame it on this, that. I think there's just a lot of pressure on Mercedes, and it's very hard to handle that. Like I felt that in Qatar, for example.
I hear what you say, but I want to slightly disagree because the first car, it's something wrong with it, and it's as reliable as Rex attendance is. Uh, you can just feel it when you sit in the car. And I think it comes down to the abrupt end of Capes in season one because he crashed that car and he just bailed. The contract was torn apart in like 2,000 pieces. And I think the bad spirit of Capes still lives in the car. Now, Capes is rejoining, hopefully, in the league. And I just hope that Capes and the car of Mercedes can meet each other once more and just greet each other.
Now you mean like basically
Get a
a
new
haunting on the car. It's kind of the curse because it
Oh,
that season
yeah,
wasn't finished on the car, and now it's like this unfinished business in a way.
yeah, and maybe Capes entering the battlefield. Oh, I'm calling this a battlefield because it's not pure racing all the time. It might haunt Mercedes even more.
Yeah, because the thing is,
Who
if
knows?
if if he performs, that's the thing. Like we've seen with you, you're performing now after you left Mercedes. If Capes comes into this league, performs, gets solid points, I think that's also a factor of. I think mentally it adds to this. It's the car, it's cursed, and it gets you into this mindset that makes you constantly paranoid about the car crashing out or something being wrong with it. It just puts you into a bad mood. I think that's the issue here.
Yeah, I believe so.
But yeah, enough with Mercedes. There's also another driver I wanted to highlight, which is my fellow German ChronX.
Oh, my teammate.
Yes.
oh, cool.
Yeah, uh, they very. I I don't want to call him reliable Kronk, but he's reliable in his attendance. He's been having some ups and downs in the league. Uh, as what I can see, the team is working very hard with him, and he's performing very well. But it's kind of the same as with Koitron, I feel like. A lot of incidents happen just ahead of him, which is unavoidable.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think ChronX for me is one of those drivers. Personally, I think he made a big step this season. If you think about pace, I think he made a really big step. I think he can easily get, especially with the number of DNFs we've had recently, he can easily be a top 5 driver. What he where he didn't improve, and that was kind of the issue last season with him as well, where he had solid race pace, especially on some of the more difficult tracks. He managed them quite well, but he couldn't convert it in a way. That was always like his biggest issue, and I feel like he made this big step forward in pace, which is important to keep on track with the ever evolving like championship demands to stay up there. I think he needs another big step just in the direction of consistency. Because, if you look at the past season as well, he could be on the podium one race, then he's somewhere lost in the midfield. Next time he only gets like 1 point or something like that. It's all over the place. He just needs
Yeah,
consistent points.
that's ChronX for you. Yeah, but I think it's just coming down to a bit of self confidence. Um,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know, I know what you mean, because if you're in that situation like I was in I'm always in that situation in like the first 2 races of the season, and I was in that a lot in season 1, which was a major learning experience for me. If you're in that situation where you crash out or something like that, or you have like a bad race, you're thinking, okay, I want to stay in touch with the leaders. So next race, I gotta be even more risk taking. I gotta do this overtake. Oh, maybe my qualifying result wasn't that good, and you self pressure yourself and lose confidence.
yeah, but to be fair, I don't think that's ChronX. But we've been attending a lot of stewards meeting, and part or he's really put up for a lot of weird incidents in front of him. I mean, so many times where he lost his front wing, been scuffed off the track. I don't know. I can't count the amount of times he's been sent off. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know what you mean. He had he met the unfortunate reality of F1 racing, that sometimes it isn't up to what you do, but to what others do. I remember like in Baku, he had a chance on a podium, then had to crash with Rex. And if you have wing damage there, Joppe handled it fantastically. Gotta admit that, but I don't think that's the usual norm for drivers to handle wing damage that well. And I think that would have been a race where he could have ended up on the podium. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
that
Speaking
you
of
know,
driving with wing damage, like Joppe, how do you manage to do that every race?
What? Nah, not every race. In Baku, I was lucky to break the right front wing. You mostly needed the left one, but it was hard. I couldn't push it as hard, uh, but my tires were good enough for getting me forward at least.
Yeah, but I'm just still surprised that you actually finish races.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know what to say. Uh,
Like after all, you're driving in McLaren, and McLaren this season is known
uh,
for their torpedoes in the team.
oh,
before we get to the torpedo man, actually, I want to highlight a driver that I'm surprised to find this low in a way. I mean, we've spoken about
I guess.
Koitron, but I guess it's two
Uh,
drivers. It's the two Williams for me, actually.
I gotta guess Magnus actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Magnus obviously, because he finished 7th last year, and he had this major improvement towards the midpoint of the season, where he started consistently getting up like into those top 5, top 6 spots. Even getting on the podium 2 times in the Netherlands and in Austin. I was kind of surprised with Fructup as well, because he also had this major jump in his development at the end of the last season. And now you find both of them on like 9th and 12th, with Fructup especially being in 12th with only 6 points, 2 DNFs.
Yeah.
That was surprising to me, because for surely, like I imagined that Magnus would, after his success in the last season, at the end of it, I would have imagined Magnus to jump even further and be like a real contender to at least like look up to the top fives, but maybe be a few points below it, but to be like, okay, if they make a mistake, maybe I have a chance to establish myself in like the top five. Instead, he's barely hanging on to being in the top 10.
Yeah, I think just the theory behind this is Mexico.
Oh, Mexico incident.
For me,
Oh, yeah.
Mexico will always be related to Magnus because there were lives at risk at that start.
Yeah,
I
that was,
mean, is he
yeah.
living with a with a bad confidence now? He know he severely did hurt a lot of drivers.
I mean, it was a major part in deciding the championship.
It really was, and I think i in a way it was a good incident because it helped us set some rules against bad starts, or if you wanna
It
call it
certainly set a precedent, yeah.
that. Yeah, I did. But I think that has had an effect on him, and he missed one race as well. So I think he still can get up there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like personally, I can see him overtaking Crinskey, maybe even overtaking ChronX. I think he can be up there. I mean, obviously the field has gotten tighter up there, but I think he can. If he strings together a few good races, I think he can slip into that seventh spot. Maybe look up to Joppe. Maybe if I make a mistake, if Joppe makes a mistake, maybe he can attack us in the championship standings. I think he has potential.
Yeah, yeah, I really do. I don't think he've had the best tracks either for the way he drives.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, we've also had a few new tracks, which is always harder on the people with like less experience.
Yeah, yeah,
So
for sure.
I'd be excited to see Williams comeback. I would really, I'm excited for them like really battling with Red Bull because I think that's their like main rival in terms of the standings in the constructors. I
Yeah,
mean, obviously, Max Stones is super consistent. You can always rely on him to get points. If Koitron, fixes his issues with getting into traffic and into problems, he can gain big points. But Magnus can gain big points, and Fruchtsuppe can be super consistent. We've seen that of them. They can do it.
they can. But if we wanna push out a driver that's kind of improved a lot, in my opinion, or two drivers that have, even though they might not feel it themselves, is Danhatt and Krelian.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Danhatt is getting his first point for this season way earlier than he got it the previous season, and Krelian is he's been struggling with his race pace, but it's shaping up, so he's looking to get some real points soon, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, for those two, usually they'd be like so far behind. You'd think, okay, they need to rely on people to crash out in a race to get points. Um, while that may still be the case in some races where there's like a lot of contenders, that's kind of the thing for everyone there, though, right? Like even someone like Max Stones in a race with 17 people, he doesn't have guaranteed points. So, I think those two have really improved because now they're actually in a position where they can attack people, they can fight people, they have the pace to keep up with the backfield, where they can get themselves into a position to get points. And if they start to adapt to some of the smarter strategies with like pit stops under safety car and similar, I think they can get a lot of points this season to, keep in the contention.
Yeah, I believe so too. So, looking through the leaderboard, we've covered most of the drivers in the bottom, uh, except for two, and it's Potato and Batman.
Yeah, I mean, Batman is kind of unlucky because I remember that we had to give him a big penalty, which was very unfortunate because he's sitting there at 1 point. Um, I think the penalty got him down from like ninth position back into 11th, which essentially took another 2 points away from him. I think Batman, like he has the same that Danhatt and Krelian got going for him. He has like he's in a position where he has the pace to contend for the points.
Yeah, I really think he can battle with the Red Bull and Williams.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Definitely.
that's the backfield. You know, you've got the Red Bulls, you've got Williams, you've got the Visa Cash App Red Bull Formula One team and Kick Sauber, and they're all fighting for points there. And I think the same just goes for Danhead and Potato. I think they have the pace to get for Batman and Potato. I think they both have the pace to get points. For Batman, he already has a point. He could have had more without that penalty. I think it's just about like keeping yourself down. Just working hard and waiting for the opportunity to snatch more points. And I mean, we've seen it in like previous seasons as well that just a few points can really matter in the end, and if you're down in the backfield or in the midfield, because they're like getting 1 point, getting 2 points, or if you have a really good race, getting like 4 or 6 points. That's a big impact for your team, and that's gonna make a major difference going into next season. Where can you go? Maybe can you upgrade to a better team? How will your teammate look next season? It's all about getting yourself into a better spot. Maybe get a mentor in the next season that can teach you more. You learn more. You improve even further. It's about that climb.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when the leaderboard is as tight as it is. I mean, the eighth place could become first almost in one race. So it could really turn things around quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like if for example Potato, if he drives in 6 points the next race, he's in 12th position. He climbs 5 positions all at once.
Yep.
If Danhead gets 6 points, he's suddenly in reach to fight against McStones and Koitron points wise. So for them, just one good race can make such a huge difference, especially in the constructors and in the drivers.
Yeah.
It's just keeping your nose down, working hard. I think there's something in them for it.
So are we hitting the torpedo now?
Yes, we can go to the torpedo. I know
Yo.
you've already teased the topic.
Yeah. So Joppe, do you have anything to brief us with who is the torpedo and why is he your I
Uh,
could say
Interesting.
star driver in a way,
Yeah,
but who
totally.
is he?
Yeah, he's the other McLaren driver, Mr. Crinskey. Um, he got the speed, but he's taking the risk in the corners when doing the
A
overtakes.
little bit of a loose cannon, I'd say.
You can you could say. And
But
yeah.
if you turn the car upside down, you might as well call him very prestigious and ambitious.
I mean, as much as we joke about it, I think Crinskey, I think he's one of those drivers who, at least what you can complain about him is like he's trying every race, he's working hard for these points, and he sticks at it despite, obviously it's related to his driving, which I'm going to tie into in a second, but, despite getting so many penalties, he still doesn't lose his motivation. He keeps trying to push up there and improve himself. I think the only thing that he really needs improvement right now is his clean driving. Because I think if he stops getting those unnecessary penalties for overtakes, he tries to overtake one corner too soon and it ends in an incident, he gets penalized and put a position back. I think if he learns the patience and the respect for the other drivers to, maybe overtake the next corner on that DRS straight, I think if he can start to manage that, he can really climb in the ranks because I think pace wise, he's at least as fast as ChronX. He can on good days come up there in the top five, contend with me, Joppe, even Rex or something like that. He can contend. It's just about keeping it clean, right?
Yeah, that's what I was getting into. I was kind a little bit of a joke aside about the torpedo thing because I honestly think that Crinskey is the driver who's been developing the most in this off season. because he's becoming really fast. His last race, as you said, if he just could commit to clean driving, he would have finished fourth.
Yeah, and that's it. Like he's like I think he's one of the most exciting prospects in if you look like past the top five. I mean, obviously Joppe isn't in the top five right now, but we know what Joppe can do. We know what ChronX can do. But if you look at Crinskey, like we know the potential that he has to be in the top five. I might doubt it a bit for Magnus. I think he's a great driver, but I don't know if he can, make that final step. I think Crinskey is already there. He can do it. It's just that he doesn't show it in a way, right? And that's sort of it excites you to see what he can actually do if he could put it on the field. But it also frustrates you because you're thinking, this guy, he can be so good, but he ruins it himself.
Yeah, and think of it this way. I think it's more like he wants it too much.
Yeah,
He tries too much. He puts too much effort into the races to do an overtake. If he sees the opportunity to do an overtake, he needs to do it instead of wait until the next appropriate spot of the track to do the overtake.
yeah. I mean, we've
Yeah.
we've seen it in Melbourne. Like I think if you think about the incident with like Koitron, for example, that was a big one for me because it was on, you have that big DRS straight, and if you just follow Koitron through the corner, you get DRS on the next straight automatically because it's a double DRS zone. So I mean, sure, if you overtake him, you got DRS and maybe can pull away, but if you just stay close there, and maybe the overtake doesn't work there, but the next time you get onto the straight, it's another double DRS zone. So there you can really pull away. And there's way better overtaking opportunities with ERS, and you have DRS open. And he just tries it too soon, and it ends in a crash, and instead of being fourth, he ends up being fifth.
Yeah, those PPs are devastating sometimes. Penalty points and time penalties can lose you a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, they add up as well. Like, if you look at someone like Rex, he's not a particularly dirty driver, but, he has like an incident there, he has an incident here, and they add up. And for both Rex and Crinskey, it's come to a point where, Rex has 3 penalty points, Crinskey has 2 penalty points. They kind of
Yeah.
can't allow themselves to get that much more during the season. I mean, especially for Rex, it's about the Drivers' Championship. And I think if he's unlucky and he gets a quali ban in a race where it's hard to overtake, those are points he's never getting back. And, then he's out of the race for the Drivers' Championship, potentially.
Yeah, yeah. If they continue this pace of collecting penalty points, they are looking for at least one, maybe two qualifying bans throughout the season. So that's gonna be devastating.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point, right? Because, I mean, maybe not as much for Crinskey because McLaren right now seems to be comfortably being in fourth position. But it kind of, if Crinskey would get a qualifying ban, it would make it very hard, especially he had one in the first race. If he gets the second one, it's going to be very hard to attack Haas in third. Um, and for Ferrari, it would be devastating because right now they are now leading the championship because, Tbzalix crashed out one race, couldn't participate the other. Suddenly they're in a position where they're leading, and if Rex gets the quali ban, like he's gonna start in 15, 16, something like that. He has to make his way through the backfield, and by the time he's back into the points, maybe he gets like 1 or 2 points. And if Tbzalix and I have a good race and get like together combined 40, 45 points, something along those lines, even if Tom puts in a good performance, we're gonna pull away a lot of points. So for them, it's about keeping it clean because they might very well throw away a championship if that happens.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, it's a buzz.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of ties in as well to I guess we could make that the next topic, the constructors championship, because we've teased it a few times now.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's very interesting because right now, the constructors championship, also the first 3 places only divided by 14 points.
You got that correct, man. Good math.
Yeah, it's good math to look at the picture for it. Yeah, but like I'm just looking at it and I'm thinking, everyone in those, everyone involved in that fight, I think it's everyone's game. Even McLaren still has outside chances depending on how it goes.
Yeah, they're definitely not out. If Crinskey could shape up, not getting so much penalties, and if Joppe just could stop being Joppe for a sec, it could really shape up and be a four-man fight, a four-team
Yeah,
fight.
I mean, obviously, Joppe crashed out this race, so McLaren is now a bit behind. But if you just look at the progression, Mercedes 64 points, then 82, now 97, and McLaren would have gained a lot this race as well had Joppe not crashed out. And so my line of thinking is, if there's more incidents up front with the top teams, McLaren can gain a lot of points if both drivers just finish the race cleanly.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's so much to talk about the constructors because it's so much points to collect still. I mean, still even for the team in the bottom uh, and in top, I don't think anyone is hanging loose or gapping anyone really.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many opportunities to still gain a lot of points, and I think I've already talked about it when talking about the drivers. Red Bull and Williams got that tight race going. Um, you have the Racing Bulls and Aston Martin, who are divided by a single point right now. For them, they can get big points. Sauber is obviously still in the race because the other two don't have that many points.
Yeah.
There's a lot of points to be gained, and I think
Yeah, potentially there's a team could still get 352 points.
yeah, obviously it's gonna be hard to achieve that,
Yeah.
but
It's gonna be very hard.
I mean, there's a lot of points open. That's that's just the reality of it, and even if it, I mean, especially because it's a short season, right? It's not a situation where last year you have, how many races did we have? Didn't we have like 16 races, I
16
think?
races compared to this season's 12.
Yeah, like last
So
season you had 16 races that you could attend. Now it's four less. So obviously, there's not that much opportunity to pull away through consistency. I mean, obviously you need to be consistent, but just there's more chance to fuck up, because if you fuck up in one race, other people can suddenly gain a lot on you.
yeah, yeah, you past season you could have a good run and fuck up a race, but this season you can't in that matter.
Yeah, you
Uh,
can't afford it, because if you fuck up one race, suddenly other people. I mean, we've seen it now with Mercedes, right? I took over in Baku, trying to, keep the lead. I got lucky that Tom crashed out, so it was, kept kind of even between Ferrari and Mercedes. Now both Ferrari drivers, or I mean, Tom finished on the podium, and I've just finished in third. And suddenly, those points hurt that you lose every race. You know, had Tbzalix finished the race on first, imagine how the standings would look very differently.
Speaking of being first, we haven't mentioned Tbzalix so much. Just jumping back a bit
Yeah,
here.
I guess we can do Tbzalix, and then we should probably do what everyone has been waiting for, the race reveal for the track of the second stint.
Yeah, and Tbzalix for me is kind of a meme. And with that, I mean he's the probably biggest contender of winning the championship every season with a horse mile. But
Yeah.
some way he always managed to just, yeah, I don't know. He just he just can't collapse on it and win. And is that gonna be broken with the Mercedes curse this season? I doubt that.
I mean, obviously, I have to believe in my teammate, but I think we're getting to a point where Tbzalix has, in every season, been the biggest talent on the track. Obviously, like he's a natural racer, um, just in race pace, understanding of track, strategy wise. Like he's the best of the best talent wise. Like, I don't think anyone is going to argue that Tbzalix isn't, like, from a pure talent standpoint, the racer on the track. But
No, it's like comparing Messi and Ronaldo. One of them is a pure talent, just can. One has trained himself
Yeah.
to be a better player, like with consistent and good training. That's where you have Joppe and Tbzalix, or Tom and Tbzalix, really. One natural talent and one trained talent. I mean,
yeah, and that's why the battles between them are so exciting. But for me, it's getting to a point. You opened the can of Ronaldo and Messi. I mean, to prove that you're really one of the great, you gotta deliver at some point. And I think that this is like the point in Tbzalix racing career and the Nordic Virtual, where for him it's at a point. I mean, sure, you can always say he's a big talent, fastest racer there, amazing strategy, but he doesn't have anything to show for it. If you look in the Hall of Fame right now as well, like okay, he has a lot of podiums, lots of race wins, fast laps, but he doesn't have a title. And Melbourne was his chance to, reestablish himself at the top of the leaderboard. He would have gapped other people by a lot. He was in front. He basically got handed a free pit stop by the safety car. There wouldn't have been anything to fear after he got on the hard. He would have just had to do his race. I was behind him to block off Tom and other contenders behind him. He could have just safely driven to a win there, but he just choked in a way,
yeah,
right?
as we say in chess, that's a big blunder.
Yeah, and it was just a big blunder, and it makes you question: is it the Mercedes curse, or can Tbzalix just not convert it? Right?
I think it's a double curse. Like maybe a double negative will make a good thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Double
but
negative becomes positive. I
eh,
guess we gotta wait to the end of the season and see, but I think that Tbzalix is not gonna be counted as a winner this season. No offense. And I don't think Tom is gonna be there either, based on the pool of sweat in the Ferrari car won't suit him good.
yeah, I think this season for Tom, if you're comparing to Tbzalix, I think last season Tom really had that added benefit of having Joppe as his kind of mentor and support in the second car. I think if like Joppe had fought him more instead of giving him the wins, helping him with strategy and all of that, I think he wouldn't have become champion necessarily. And now with Rex, he has a driver who's also contending for wins and is driving his own race. Like Ferrari right now has two people who want to become drivers champion, and for them it's also a learning curve of, does one of them stick back and play for the team to hold up other drivers, enable wins, not fight for points and instead give them away? That's an important part of racing. And personally, I don't see either of them pulling back and letting the other guy win. And I think throughout the season, that's majorly going to impact them, because I think Tom could really benefit from someone who was maybe like slightly worse as a driver, but who helped him get those secure race wins. If you think about like what I did for Tbzalix and Monza by holding up Tom, so he couldn't even get anywhere close to DRS. Those are
Yeah,
important parts about racing.
100% agree. You won't get anywhere without a good teammate, so
Yeah, I mean, it's
or
not
you
that.
can, but it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
gonna be
it's not that
really hard.
Rex is a bad teammate, but he's not like, I don't see either of them as being the team player to lift up the other one to win the trophy ahead of them.
No, I don't feel so either. I think the chemistry between other drivers is way better throughout the field, so it's gonna impact them negatively, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for me, when I'm thinking about like, if ChronX makes that major step to more consistency and manages to create gaps for you, like I think Haas, was viewed before the start of the season as like an outside contender. But I think Haas is a very strong team, and I think ChronX, like he's an absolute team player, and he's willing to stick back to enable others to win. And I think that can play a major role.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. I'm really with you. So we're talking about revealing our next track, and just before we get into that, I just wanna tell every driver in this league to remember for the next race, bring your batteries, have a glass of water ready, and don't tab out. Because, guys,
Don't do it.
all those tab outs makes the game crash for you.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Just stay in the game. Just stay in the game because every driver that's continuously tabbing out or doing stuff on in behind the game is gonna have issues.
Yeah, I think you can
Just a
solve a
fact.
lot of strategy questions you have with each other. I think you can solve them before the race starts, and that's what I recommend. Like when I was chatting with Tbzalix before the race, we briefly went down, but we already had most of the strategy discussed on what we wanted to do. And I think you can do that. I don't think there's that much to discuss just shortly before the race. I think that's bad prep in a way, right?
Yeah, yeah. You don't do minor changes before a race. That's
Yeah, just
not the forum to do it. Just make your strategy and bring home the trophy at the end of the day. So it's pretty simple.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so final race reveal. Infeat, do you want to do the honors?
To reveal the track.
Yes.
Yeah. So for the next track, the Monday 24th of March, we're all gonna travel to China, to
China.
China.
the track of Shanghai. This is a new track for the season, and it's been, let's say, people have been haunting us for having the track in the league. Uh, but there's a lot of very difficult corners in this track where I don't think drivers realize that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of them are fast paced, some of them are slower paced, and you need to hit the exact braking points to have the best exit speed. It's a difficult track in a way, but also it's kind of weird to describe it because I think it's easy, but at the same time, like it's one of those, easy to learn, hard to master tracks.
Yeah, for those playing without traction, it's a slippery track. I can tell you that. And I'm gonna say right now that I assume that there will, or I predict that there will be 3 broken front wings in the first corner.
Yeah, that one is a tough one. I mean, it's almost a circle.
It is.
So that's gonna be super interesting. I know ChronX is probably gonna be hyped about this because I remember him in season 2 saying, oh, that's one of my favorites. I remember us doing it at a test drive. So I think that's
Yeah.
gonna be interesting. If ChronX it's his favorite track, I'm sure he's gonna train that a lot. If he can convert that into like a high position, I would be very happy for him.
Yeah, me too. Very happy. I think he earned it. But, but a big issue I think every driver will have, unless they go onto the track and practice it a little bit, is the ERS management because
Oh yeah.
there's so much long straights, no room to charge a battery. It's just, and if you blast your battery below 20-30% on one lap, you're toast for 2-3 more laps.
Yeah, good luck watching people overtake you.
Yeah, yeah, you can wave their goodbye. They'll
Yeah, I
see you in
mean,
the rear
it's
mirror.
it's very nice to see other drivers. It's not so nice if they just go past you. ERS management is very important for this track because this is one of the ones where you can't afford to blast ERS without any need, but you need ERS for overtakes. So
Yeah.
it's a balancing act.
So closing up this show, do you guys have any prediction for how the leaderboard will look after Stint 2? Top 5.
It's hard to say because I think those are tracks that can, like I don't want to spoil what tracks they are, obviously, but I think the tracks that are coming up, they are gonna be tracks that are also gonna, like a few of them are gonna be dependent on weather as well. Like does it rain? How do you react to it? Um, there's also a few tracks that are very practice heavy, I think. So I think this kind of favors Tom and you.
Yeah, I feel like they will serve us good, and maybe Joppe, as I know Joppe and his driving style. No matter if it rains or is sun, I think we could have a good blasting show. And I don't know, maybe gap Tbzalix a little bit.
I mean, Tbzalix is always gonna perform. That's clear. I think these aren't actually tracks that are that well for me. This is probably my prediction, if I'm being honest. Obviously, I'm gonna try to get as many points as I can, but I don't think any of those tracks particularly suits me. But I guess we'll see. Like my prediction is that Tom and you are probably gonna get a lot of points there.
Yeah, and it's so funny I mentioned Joppe, and he has no idea what track it is.
Yeah, Joppe
Yes.
doesn't know.
I'm so curious right now.
It's a trade secret. Keeps up
It
the
is.
brand value of the Nordic Virtual.
We have one probably 100% certain of a sunny weather track, and we have one that's 80% rain track. So could be
Yeah, and the
cool.
other one is a 50-50.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess that's it then. Thank you guys for listening to us, and yeah, good racing.
See you next race.
Yeah. Yeah.